This is going to be a great jumping off point for those of you who want to get started with Google Analytics. This is going to be a full in-depth tutorial covering everything from opening up a new account, installing it on your site. We're going to go through a couple of settings that you need to get right, and then we're going to go through the most important reports that you need to know in order to get the most out of Google Analytics. Let's dive in. Hey and welcome to the channel. My name is Leon. This channel exists to help you use web analytics to become more effective in your daily work. I want to thank everyone that has been liking my videos and has subscribed to the channel, because that really helps me get these videos out to as many people as I can. As a way to say thank you, I have created a short cheat sheet on how you can grow your website traffic. So if you're interested in that, just go into the video description. You'll find a link to that cheat sheet there for free. Also, if you like this course, but you want to go even deeper, I have created a full online course on this very topic. So if you're interested in that, I will put a link in the video description to that course as well. Yes, we're inside of Google Analytics, and this is what we're going to achieve today. We're going to open up an account for you. We're going to install it on your site. And after a while, you'll see the amount of users, the amount of sessions, the amount of conversions or bounce rate, and the time that people spend on your site. You're going to learn more about what's going on your site, who is using it, and how effective is it, so you can optimize your site for that. And before we're going to dive in, I want you to explain to you a little bit how the layout is of the Google Analytics accounts. Because if I press here, and we're going to open up a new account, so don't worry, but I want to show you this. If I press here, you'll see that Google Analytics has a very particular layout. So you have an account, like the one I have here, and usually the name of the account is the name of your organization. So in my case, I'm just a freelancer. And inside of that account, usually you have more than one website. So in this case, I have, for instance, my Dutch site and my international site. And this is the thing that to get right from the start. If you already have an account and you want to add a site, just look up your account and add a new site right here. Don't go in and make multiple accounts, because it can get very confusing and people lose data because of this. So this is my recommendation for you. If you already have an account, just go ahead and add a new property to this. I will show you how to do that, so don't worry. If you don't have an account at all, it's easy. Just go ahead and make a new one. So how do you know if you already have an account? So let me show you. I'm going to go incognito. And let's go together to analytics.google.com. And this is where you need to log in. So let me log in via an email address that doesn't have Google Analytics. I know that for sure. So if you never opened up an account before, you'll get a page just like this. And if here it is in Dutch, you can just press this button right here, and that will take you into an onboarding flow where you can make a new account, where you can make a property, where you fill out some details, etc. So if you don't have an account yet, just make one here, give it the name of your organization, and then I usually untick all these boxes because I don't want to share data with Google. And then I just go into the next step, and the next step is exactly the same for when you already have an account. And for those of you who already have an account, let me show that as well. Just log in. You'll be redirected to whatever property you already have. So for instance, this one. And if you want to make a new property inside of that account, just go ahead into create and then create property. And this is kind of the second step for those of you who are yet to make a new account. So from here, it's exactly the same. I'm going to make a testing property in the scenario where I just have opened up a new website and I want to start all over again. So this is going to be my leonkorteweg.nl. I'm going to say test in brackets next to it, so I can see visually which one I just created. And we're paying with euros, and we're going to press next. Business details, industry. It's always a bit of a hassle, but in other, yeah, next. And I'm used to this one, other as well. So you'll get a nice selection of basic reports, and then I'm going to press create. In the last step, you need to choose a platform, and you need to know this. Google Analytics, you can install it on a website, but you can also install it on an app, for instance, an Android app or an iOS app, or you can do all three inside of one property. That's probably a little bit too complicated for this tutorial, and most of you who are going to install it on a website anyway. So let's press web and let's fill out our details here. So I'm going to install it on Korteweg.nl. and the stream name doesn't really matter, but I usually just keep it to the domain name. I'm going to create and I'm going to continue. The next screen is really important because we need to install Google Analytics on our site. I have WordPress, but I want to show you a different route because I like to do things via the manual way. And the benefit of that for you as well is many of you might not use WordPress, and this way it works the same for everyone. So here in this screen we have what we call a tracking code. So I'm going to copy this right here and I'm going to paste it in a new blank text file, and I'm going to put it off to the side for a moment. This is important to keep, and if you skipped this screen and you lost the tracking code, I'm going to show you where to find it in a minute. So let me close it. I want to just go to the home screen. Yeah, there you go, continue to home. If you forgot to paste in your code, it doesn't really matter. You have a get tagging instruction button right here. So it will, and then to the bottom for you tagging instructions. So you'll find it right here, install manually. Here's the tracking code. If you can't find this button here, just go into admin and into data streams. Then open up the data stream for your site. Yeah, it's a little bit hidden away. And then to the bottom where you have view tag instructions. And then install manually. This is where you find your tracking code and where you can paste it in blank documents. We want to keep it because this is the piece of code that we want to put on our site in order to track users. And I'm going to assume that you're not using Google Tag Manager today. So we're going to just paste in this script on our site. Later on, I might make an entire tutorial on how to use Google Tag Manager. And there I will show you how to install it via Tag Manager. Today, we're going to keep it simple. So this is the code that we're going to put on our site. The next step in installing Google Analytics is to actually go in, and here's my site, but I want to log in as admin. So I'm going to go into my WordPress backend. I'm going to use my password. There you go. So I've just logged into my WordPress backend, and you need to know that every site is different. Even WordPress sites are very, very different. But what I like to do is every site usually has some kind of text field where you can paste in tracking codes. And for this site, I installed a plugin for that. So let me find it right here. It's head and footer. So this is the name of the plugin, head, footer, and post injections. You'll see that I've been using this for a different tutorial as well. So let me just remove all this. But this is a head page section injection. So it's just a text box that everything that I put in here will just be put on every page across the entire site in the head section of my site. And this is exactly what I want. I just want to paste in the Google Analytics tag right here. Chances are that you're not on WordPress or you don't have this plugin installed. Just go in and try to find a text box like this. Almost every site has this. If you can't find it, just contact your web developer and ask them for help. So let me just save this. And if you have put it in that box, if you've saved it, there's usually one step that you need to do, and that is to empty the cache of your site. Almost all sites these days have some kind of cache mechanism. A cache mechanism, it basically is a storage layer where if somebody opens up your site, they will open up basically a stored version of your site. So it doesn't generate the entire site all over again each time a user lands on your site. They open up a kind of a stored version. So we're going to empty the cache by saying purge all caches. And again, this is different on all sites. You might have a different plugin. So contact your web developer or the support of your website to ask more about that. I'm going to log out, and Google Analytics now should be here installed on my site. So one thing you probably want to do here is you want to check if Google Analytics is actually on your site. There are a couple of ways you can do that. One thing that I like to do here is I like to just right click on my site and then just go into page source. That will open up the code of your site, and you don't need to understand what's going on here, but you can just press the search box right here, and then I'm going to look for this part of the tracking code. So let me just paste it in here. Yeah, here I found my tracking code. So this is giving me already confidence that the tracking code is actually on my site. Another thing you should do here to just test if things are working is to go back into Google Analytics, go into your home screen or into your reports is even better, and then into the real-time overview. And this might not work if you've just opened up a property. Sometimes it just takes a little while. In the end, you should be able to see at least one active user here, because you are currently visiting your own site and you should be able to see yourself. And if you see an active user, that means the data is coming in to your Google Analytics account. All right, so we've installed Google Analytics on our site, and at this point our property is empty. And it's going to take a while for users to come in. So if you check back in about a week, you'll find out how many users you have on your site per day. But at this stage, so at the beginning stage, there are a couple of things that I recommend. And the first thing, the most important thing, is to install conversions. Conversions is a way for you to find out not only how many visitors do you have, how many users, not only what the bounce rate is, but also how many people actually contacted me through my site. So in my case, on my site, I have a contact form, and this is for me the most important conversions. Almost all the time when people fill out this form, it means somebody wants to work with me, it means new business. So this is an important form, and I want to know exactly how many people fill out this form and what the source was. So what was the landing page? What was the traffic source for those conversions? And in order to know that, we need to do some additional work, and that is to configure conversions. And by the way, conversions in GA4, they are called key events. So that's what we're going to set up next. So to set up key events, to set up conversions in Google Analytics, I'm going to go into my site and I'm going to do a little bit of research. And this website is very familiar to me, but when you install Google Analytics on your own site, you might not know exactly how this works if you haven't built the site yourself. So we need to do a little bit of research, because what I want to do here is I want to find out what happens if I fill out this contact form and submit the form. Because what I want to know here is I want to know the thank you page that is behind this form. So I'm currently at this page and I want to know, like, if somebody submits this form, am I redirected to a thank you page? Because this is important for tracking. So let me just fill out this form real quick. Test.nl. This is a test. And I'm going to hit send. And as you'll find out, I'm redirected to a new URL. And this is called a thank you page. And this URL is really important because I'm just going to fill out this URL. Every time a user hits this URL, it's going to mean somebody filled out my contact form. So if you haven't got a thank you page on your site, or it doesn't have a unique URL, I recommend that you go back to your web developer or you install a plugin who can achieve this on your site. All right, so now that we know our thank you page, I'm going to copy the page path of the thank you page. So it's basically the part without domain name, and sometimes you even have like some kind of identifier or some kind of parameter, but we're going to copy this part, so the page path. So we're going to remove the domain name. So let me show it like this. So we're going to remove the domain name and we're going to remove the parameters from the URL if you have any. This part that we're left with is the page path of our thank you page. And we're going to copy this and we're going to go over to Google Analytics and we're going to go into the admin section. And in the admin section, I'm going to look for the events screen. So it's right here. And I'm going to go into create event. I'm going to set up an event right here. So create event, I'm going to give this a name. So this is my contact form submit. It's important to give it a clear name. So if it's a newsletter form, just fill out newsletter form submit or just newsletter. This is the name basically that ends up in your reports. So the name that you choose here is the name that you're gonna see in your report. So it's better to be clear right here. So event name equals page view. And we're gonna make a new condition and we're gonna call this page location contains. And I'm going to paste in my page path of my thank you page. So basically we're saying every time a user opens up a page, so event name equals page view, and that page contains the path of your thank you page, then track a contact form submit. That's basically what we're saying right here. And while we're here, I want to copy the event name that I chose, and I'm going to paste it in my notes because we're going to need that later. So let's create this event. The next step here is to go back into the admin screen. So let me just go back here and then find key events. And key events is basically the name for conversions in Google Analytics. So key events. And we already created an event, but we need to tell Google Analytics that this is basically a conversion. So this event, contact form submit, I'm going to add that to Google Analytics as a new key event. I'm going to hit save. And this is how you set up conversions in Google Analytics 4. All right, so the next thing that I want to show you is how to filter yourself from your Google Analytics reports. Because you, as a site owner, are often browsing around your own website. And you're maybe testing out your forms if they're working. And that can really pollute your reports. And that's why we often recommend to filter your own traffic from reports. And you can even do this for some other colleagues who are also like using the site very often. Or you can even filter out an entire office building if you want to. But it's basically these steps. So we're going to go into the admin section of our site and we're going to find the data streams section right here. And under data streams, we're going to choose the data stream that we've added today. And if we open that up, we're going to scroll down. We're going to go to configure tag settings. And here we're going to go to show more and scroll down to define internal traffic. And basically we need to do two things. This is the first screen that we need to fill out. So I'm going to say create, and this is my home office. And I'm going to paste in my name as well. So if you have more home offices or other colleagues that you want to fill out, just give it a good name, because you want to go back every now and then to check if the IP addresses or the settings are still correct. So at this point, if you have filled out the name, just go into IP address equals, and here you need to fill out the IP address that you're currently using. So this is not hard. You can just go into a new tab and find on Google what is my IP. If you scroll down, Google will tell you what your current public IP address is. So I'm going to copy it right here. I'm going to go back into Google Analytics and I'm going to paste it in right here. And I'm going to press create. So this is the first step. We're not done yet because we need to go back a little bit. And in the admin section right here, there is a screen called data filters. So we're going to go into here. Here's an internal traffic filter, but it's currently set to testing. So I want to enable this filter. I'm going to set it to active and I'm going to press save. And this is what's going to activate the filter. And from now on, every time I'm browsing my own site from my own network, my traffic is excluded from the reports. And this is really important because if you want to test something, if you want to test your own conversion, you need to switch to a different network. And I often use my cell phone. I usually just make a hotspot to just work around the filter that I've set up if I want to. All right, so we've opened up an account. We've installed it on our site and we set up conversions and filters. There are a couple of settings that you need to check before we move on. First of all, again, in admin, there's a section called data retention. And here the default data retention for event data is 2 months. And I like to increase that limit to 14 months. So I'm going to hit save. And that makes sure that, especially in the custom reports that we're going to build later, that we can work with up to 14 months of data. So let's hit save. All right, the last piece of configuration here that I want to talk about is privacy. And this is not the same for everyone, but depending on where you live, you might need to ask for permission or for consent before you can track users. If you haven't done that already, if this is the case for you, you need to have a cookie banner on your site before you can start to use Google Analytics. And because this is a topic of its own, I'm not going to include the full tutorial right here. I might do a new tutorial on this later. But if you're looking for a quick solution that doesn't require a lot of technical knowledge, I recommend to open up an account with Cookiebot. There's an affiliate link in the video description if you're interested. But if you open up a Cookiebot account, you can add Cookiebot to your site using a one-line piece of script. You can add it the same way that I showed you earlier in the same text box. And I recommend that you use the auto blocking feature. Cookiebot will automatically handle everything for you and will make sure that cookies are blocked when consent is not yet given. I might make a full tutorial on this in the future. So if you're interested in that, please leave a comment down below. All right, congratulations. You've just opened up your Google Analytics account and installed it on your site and made the necessary configuration in order to get started with tracking. And over the next couple of weeks and months, you're going to learn so much about how many users are coming to your site and what their behavior is like and where you can optimize your site. So I'm really excited for you to learn all these things about your site. In the next section, I want you to help you get an overview of where you can find the most important things in Google Analytics. So I'm going to switch over to my own property, the property that, like my non-testing property, so the property that I'm currently using on my site, because I already have data there. So please bear in mind that you don't have data yet because you've just opened up your account. But if you come back in a week or in a month, you'll see exactly the same reports, different numbers of course, but these are the reports that you can expect. So let me go over all the big sections, and after that we're gonna dive into a couple of important reports in Google Analytics. All right, let me do a quick tour where you can find the most important things in your Google Analytics account. And we're gonna start in the top bar right here. This is where you, again, switch to different sites. So if you have other sites, it's an easy way to switch between those sites. So let me just switch back real quick. Also, this is very important to me. If you followed my instructions, you'll see the website name, the domain name in here. And if you haven't done that already, sometimes people just type their own name right here. But to me, it's really important to know exactly the domain that I'm currently analyzing, because sometimes I'm looking at numbers, things don't end up, and I look up right here, and then I notice that I'm looking at the wrong website. To me, it's really important to have this connection between the domain name and the reports down below. So that's a quick tip right there. In the top right corner, this is the Google account that you're currently using. So if you are looking for a site and you can't find it here, chances are that you have access to that other site via a different Gmail or Google account. So you can find that right here in the top right corner, and you can switch also or add an account, log in, and then try to find your site there. If you have the property that you're looking for open, you have a couple of options right here. So we're currently on the home screen, and the home screen is a great summary of what's going on your site. And we're going to go a little bit deeper on this later in this video in the next section. But currently you can just see, okay, what are the amount of users, for instance, the sessions, and what's the growth or decline that you have seen. So this is important because this already raises questions. Okay, why did the traffic grow? What can I learn from that? And what can I do to replicate that next year? So the next section here is reports and explore. So both of these sections have reports in it. So the first section, reports, has all the default reports in Google Analytics. So for instance, what are my channel? What are my traffic sources? What are my top performing pages? How many mobile users do I have? So this contains a wealth of information already. And to be honest, if you're starting out, I recommend that you use these default reports for a while, because you can get a lot of information from this. You also have the exploration reports, and exploration reports allow you to go even deeper, but you need to make these reports yourself. And that's the barrier of entry is a little bit higher right here. And that's why I recommend, if you're just starting out, to use the regular reports. Advertising is a screen for those of you who have Google Ads. And to be honest, I don't use this screen very often. I believe this screen is still under construction by Google. There is some value in here, but I'm going to skip it for today because I rarely use it. And I don't think you should be using it if you are just starting out. All right, the admin screen we already discussed, but this is where you configure your setup. We already went over the most important screens here, so I'm not going to go into this. Let's go back into the home screen. Let me show you how I use this. So the home screen, again, I really like it. It's currently set to the last 12 months, but to be honest, I really like this to be at 28 days. 28 days is a really good time period to get a quick sense of how many users do you have currently on your site. 28 days is exactly 4 weeks, which means that you always have the same amount of weekend and weekdays in that date range. So if you would say 30 days, sometimes you have an extra weekend day and sometimes not. So this number fluctuates, but if you have the last 28 days and you see 77, it's an honest comparison to the date range before that. Also, it's almost a month. So I'm currently like 2/3 on my way by the end of January. So this is a good estimate of where this month is going. So that's why I really like this to be set at 28 days. Also, if you just keep it there, you'll grow familiar with these numbers and you'll say, okay, 77 is more than I had last time, or 77 is a little bit less than last time. This will really help you get familiar with the numbers that you see in your GA4 reports. And also 28 days is the default date range that you'll find in your default reports. That's why I recommend you set that to 28 days as well. And then you have the option of choosing a couple of metrics. And this might be a little bit hard if you're just starting out, but there are a lot of metrics. And this is how I set it up myself. So first of all, I want to see the amount of users. So it's already set to active users, but if it's not on your end, just type in users and you'll find this active users metric. And this is the default metric for the amount of users. So I recommend that you use that as well. So I have 77 users on my site. Next up, I have sessions right now, but I'm going to change that to the average engagement time per session. So if somebody visits my site, what's the average time that they visit my site? How long is that? And that's a good indicator for, okay, is my content resonating with my audience? Is my content good? Do they like my content? Because the longer they spend, most often that's a signal of people are like really reading and consuming my content. Also bounce rate, it's already here. If it's not, just look for bounce rate. This is a good estimate of, okay, how many people just entered your site and then left immediately within 10 seconds. So in this case, 40% is, I think, 35, 40. I did a video on what the average bounce rate is on site. So go watch that if you're interested. I believe this is a little high, but not something to worry about. 40% is normal, but a little on the high end. And then lastly, the important thing for me is key events. And I already showed you how to set up conversions. Currently something is probably going not so well, or I didn't have any of course, we have had Christmas and things like that. So I don't have a lot of conversions on my site, but this is the metric that shows you how many conversions you had on your site. And these 4 numbers already give me a lot of information. What's going on my site? Are things going well or are things not going well? And sometimes this is all you need to know. But if things are not going well, you want to dive deeper and you want to find out, you want to start to analyze like what is going on and where can I improve? And that's where you can go into reports and find out more about the traffic and the conversions that are happening on your site. And the first report that I want to show you is the traffic sources report. And the traffic source report, you can find that under reports and then under life cycle and then under acquisition and then traffic acquisition. And it's really important that you are opening up the traffic acquisition report and not the user acquisition report, because the user acquisition report only shows the channels of the new users on your site. So every time who's opening up the site for the first time. But I want to know all the sessions, the first, the second, the third, every session that a user does on my site, I want that to show up in my traffic source report. And that's why I open up the traffic acquisition report. And this will show me the most important channels on my site. And I can go in to this first column and choose source medium. This is a little bit more detailed view of my channel sources. This is what I prefer over the other view. And then per source, I can see the amount of sessions. So how much traffic did that source generate, but also the quality, like the time of those visits. This might be a bit confusing, but engagement rate is really the opposite of bounce rate. So 60% engagement is 40% bounce. You can customize this if you want to. These two really tell me like what's the quality of this traffic. And you'll see that the top performing channel here, like 50 sessions, which is direct, has a low quality, like 10 seconds and less than 50% engagement. So more than half of those visits are leaving immediately. While the second source has 44, so less than direct. It's Google organic, which means the non-paid traffic from Google. And that traffic has on average half a minute of engagement time. So they are really reading my website for about half a minute. And the engagement rate is 70%. So 30% is leaving my site immediately and 70% is staying. And this is a lot better than the traffic source above. You'll find out that it's really important not only to look at the amount of traffic, but also look at the quality of that traffic. And you can even see the amount of conversions in the last couple of rows. So key events, you can even select the key events that you want to set up here. For some reason, I don't have key events. There is probably something wrong in my setup, But let's say you had 10 key events, and it's of course like really nice to know like what channels are driving my key events right here. And based on this information, you can evaluate your different channel sources. So if you have a newsletter that you're sending out on a regular basis that's taking up a lot of your time, and you see, okay, it's giving me a lot of traffic, but the traffic doesn't really consume my content, they are not really spending time on my site, and it's not really converting, you might be better off investing that time, investing that all your attention and your energy in a different channel source who is performing well and who is doing better. So you can use this information to evaluate what you are doing in your online marketing, in your online campaigns, and adjust your strategy based on this. So let's talk a little bit about the channel sources that you can expect. So direct traffic is, of course, are the people that enter your site in the top bar of their browser, but it's also like a container for traffic that Google Analytics finds hard to allocate. So for instance, WhatsApp, if a friend texts me a link and I follow that link, Google Analytics will have a very hard time attributing that traffic to WhatsApp. So it's just going to attribute messenger traffic to direct. And there are a couple of other examples where Google Analytics has a hard time like allocating or attributing the traffic and the conversion to its source. So it's a container for direct traffic, but also a couple of other sources that Google Analytics just has a hard time allocating it to. Then Google, of course, you have organic traffic, which is basically your SEO efforts. So if you have good content on your site and that starts to rank, people look for different things and then they click on your site, that's Google organic. And of course you have Google CPC, which is your paid search campaigns that you have. You might find social media traffic here as well, email traffic, yeah, even ChatGPT shows up here. So all the traffic sources that you have invested in, even referral traffic, so you have a blog that links to your site, you'll find that here as well. And here you'll get a clear picture of like, okay, I have about 100 visits on my site right here, 100 sessions. Like, where are those sessions coming from? And you can evaluate your strategy based on these numbers. So the second report that I want to show you is the pages and screens report. And you'll find that under life cycle and then pages and screens. This report shows you the top pages that the people are watching on your site. My site here, it's the homepage is the most viewed page, and under that I have a couple of content pages that are performing really well. But especially if you have more content, this report will show you what topics your viewers really like. Like, what are the amount of views and how many active users have viewed this content. So for instance, here it's about 100 views by 62 users. Also, how long are people reading that content? Is it a page where you just navigate and click through to a next page? Or is it a piece of content that you really want to read? And this report really helps you figure out what your audience likes to read and what the topics are that your audience is interested in. So the next report that I want to show you is like how many users are viewing your site on a mobile device. And you can find out more about that in the user folder and then under tech and then tech details. By default, this report opens up with the browser set as a primary dimension. But I want to change this to device category. This will give me a clear overview how many people are viewing my site on a desktop device versus a mobile device. And this is really important information if you're just redesigning or if you are testing your site, like, is my audience viewing it on a desktop device like I'm currently using, or should I test more and design more and build more with the mobile audience in mind? And to be honest, usually you see a clear distinction here between business to business and business to consumer. So if you're targeting consumers, you often have more mobile traffic, especially if you have a lot of effort in social media traffic. So if you have social media advertisements running, or if you're big on organic social media traffic, then mobile will probably be bigger than desktop. But it's always nice to know for sure, and this is how you find out more about that. All right, that's it for today. I hope this video was clear. I hope it was helpful. Of course, I can talk for another hour on how to use Google Analytics, but these are really the fundamentals, and I want to keep this video relatively short. If you want to learn more about Google Analytics, if you want to go deeper, I recommend that you check out my full online course on how to use Google Analytics. It's basically the same structure, but it goes way deeper in, for instance, how to customize reports or even build your own, for instance, funnel reports. I also explain how you can take numbers and turn those numbers into actionable recommendations for instance, in reports that you send through the organization, or how you take the numbers and make changes based on those numbers on your site. So for those of you who want to go deeper, check out the link in the video description. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.